Hello, welcome back to another episode of Caps on Comics. I'm Kenny Caps, and today I'm going to be walking you through my New York City comic book tour. Let's get started. So, very recently, my family and I got to go to New York City, which was amazing. And besides seeing all the sights like the Statue of Liberty and the Brooklyn Bridge, every now and then I got to see something that was significant to the comic book community. For instance, Jack Kirby's birthplace on 147 Essex Street. It's changed a lot since he was born, but still, it's a very awesome place, and I felt like it needed a historic landmark. The next day, we went to the Bronx to see Edgar Allan Poe's house. And as awesome as it was to be here, it was kind of in disrepair. But you couldn't even go inside. It was still really neat to see it. Right next to Poe Park, the Poe house was Poe Park. And this place was significant because this is where Bob Kane and Bill Finger, the co-creators of Batman, would come to sit and to just flesh out stories and think up stuff of what they could do with the character. It was a really awesome place to be. Up next is DeWitt Clinton High School. So, just a few miles from Poe Park in the Bronx is this beautiful high school, and it is famous for being the high school that Stan Lee went to. Bob Kane and Bill Finger, who I was just talking about, the co-creators of Batman, they went to school here. Will Eisner went to school here as well. This was one of those places. All of these pictures were taken in the back seat of the van because, there wasn't a whole lot of places to park, and I drugged the children everywhere, and so I figured, as we're just passing by, I'll take a couple of quick pictures. And I remember thinking, wow, this is where, Bob Kane, Bill Finger, Stan Lee walked. It was just really cool. So we began our drive back to New York, and we passed Grand Central. I point out to the kids, hey, kids, this is where the Avengers was at. So the pictures that you're looking at now are all from Metropolis's art gallery. Metropolis Comics is an online comic book store that's located in Manhattan. And right there, that picture is of Vincent Zerzolo. He is the owner of the company, and he was gracious enough to let us in, and we got to see pictures of this original art. It was just simply amazing. There's art here from every major artist over the century. This is Kirby right here. So there was just a lot of amazing pieces to see here. There's a Frazetta right there. You can see that, worth millions of dollars, like an original piece of his artwork, on top of work from Neil Adams. There's work from Schomburg, Buscema, just every name that you could think of. There's another picture of the Frazetta painting. Just tons of beautiful artwork. And for me, it was just like being in heaven, just seeing all this amazing stuff. And it's interesting that the employees that work there, they walk past this stuff every day, and they were even saying, you kind of just get desensitized to being around all of this beautiful artwork. More up here, you can clearly see some Neil Adams work there. Up at the top, this was my favorite piece, absolutely, Todd McFarlane's 301 Amazing Spider-Man, and I kept coming back to this, and it was funny. My tour guide was like, this easily worth the least amount of money in the whole building. And it's like, well, I can't help it. I grew up with McFarlane as the artist of Spider-Man. And some more work right here. Awesome pictures from Thor. This is another piece of Kirby's work right here. I forgot to say there was some Ditko work a little bit back before. and just all over the place, this beautiful artwork. It's just really incredible. And the last thing that they had in their front parlor was this comic book stand. It's easily worth thousands of dollars. It was just so cool. Very rare, very hard to see. So we left New York and went to Long Island. My wife's family is from Amityville, and while we were visiting some of her relatives and seeing some graves of her relatives, I found out Joe Simon was buried not far, 13 miles away. So I was like, can we, while we're in the area, go to Joe Simon's grave? He's the co-creator of Captain America. And of course, my wife was like, yeah, sure. So it was raining that day, and we found our way to Long Island National Cemetery, and this is the spot where Joe Simon was buried. It's this really bad picture of this map, but in section 3A, if you ever want to go out there, that's where Joe Simon was buried. And luckily, it was fairly easy to find, because if you look at this cemetery, there's just thousands and thousands of graves. And luckily, someone had pointed out this is exactly where it is. So my wife, she's really good at finding stuff like this, and found it with no problem. And that's Joe Simon's grave right there. There's no mention at all of his co-creation of Captain America, but it was just really awesome to get to see that. There were lots of other places in Long Island I wanted to go to. Like, Stan Lee had a house in Hewlett Harbor, and I had hoped to go there. Jerry Siegel had a house in Great Neck, but we just ran out of time. And the kids, by this time, we had been in New York for a week. The kids were just tired of me dragging them from place to place, so fine. And then here it is, the last place. I had found this shot of a letter from Stan Lee to Jack Kirby with his house in East Williston. So this was the big thing. Like, I wanted to see Jack Kirby's house. And here, right at this place, this is where Jack Kirby created some of the most iconic characters for Marvel. He lived here from like 60 to 82 before moving to California. And while he was here working in the dungeon in the basement, as his kids called it, for 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, he created Fantastic Four, Thor, Hulk, the Avengers, the X-Men. He helped co-create Iron Man, like all Ant-Man. Like, these are the comic book characters that people think of today. I took a picture of this tree because there's a picture that'll come up next of Stan Lee and his wife Roz, along with their two kids standing in front of this tree. The tree's much bigger now, but you can see the sidewalk behind it, and you can barely see the power lines over there. So another place that I was like, there should be a landmark here, like a national landmark, but there isn't. And anyway, it was just really awesome to be there. Well, that wraps up another episode of Caps on Comics. I'm Kenny Caps. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. Bye.